Success in the building industry needs to be extremely streamlined and extremely boring. And a lot of people are upset by that in the hemp building world. You know, they believe it should be a community building activity, and there's a lot of sort of community around the plant, right?
That is award-winning hemp journalist Jean Lotus. This is the Lancaster Farming Industrial Hemp Podcast. My name is Eric Harlock, and I am excited to share today's show with you. I am a huge fan of Jean Lotus. I have learned a lot from her over the years. She has been writing about the hemp industry a little bit longer than I have been covering it here on the podcast. So anyway, we're going to talk about the Hemp Building Directory. It's a guide to the international hemp industry. We're going to talk about HempBuild Magazine. We're going to talk about the HempBuild School Masterminds program. So much to talk to Jean about today, but that's not all. I've got some events and updates for you after these sponsor messages. This episode is brought to you in part by Impactful Ventures, an investment and incubation company focused on supporting startups and other initiatives that play a vital role in mitigating the adverse effects of climate change. At Impactful Ventures, they strive to amplify enterprises that bring innovative, green opportunities to the forefront and empower those making a significant impact for a sustainable future. You can learn more at impactfulventures.org. This episode is brought to you in part by I&D Hemp in Fort Benton, Montana, where they believe in the goodness of hemp. I&D Hemp is a family-owned, mission-driven, and environmentally focused industrial hemp food, feed, and fiber company, providing new opportunities for farmers and rural communities. Their mission is to provide innovative agricultural products and services to connect American farmers with the pioneers and businesses that see hemp as a way to bring real and lasting change to our communities and planet. Learn more at indhemp.com. All right, so welcome back. Thanks again to our sponsors, I&D Hemp and Impactful Ventures, and also a quick shout out to our new sponsor, Forever Green, distributors of the KP4 hemp cutter. Check them out at forevergreen.com and be sure to ask them about their equipment buyback program. So if you've got a piece of harvesting equipment that you think you want to part with, you should talk to them. Okay, so anyway, getting into our news nuggets today, there are some hempcrete workshops coming up. There is, so I want to direct your attention to those. April 27th through the 30th here in Pennsylvania at Amerishon Cast Hemp's shop up there in Bartow. And this, you'll be trained in the eReezy spray-applied hempcrete system. So I'll have a link to that on the show page for this episode at lancasterfarming.com. And then in May 10th through the 12th, there is a hempcrete building workshop brought to you by Right Coast Hemp. This is in Manahawkin, New Jersey. So I'll have a link to that as well on the show page for this episode at lancasterfarming.com. So there are a lot of educational opportunities coming up. We're going to hear about a few more of those when we talk to Jean Lotus from HempBuild Magazine. But if you go to hempbuildmag.com and go to their events page, you'll see all of these events. And there's one next week in Texas, Maynard, Texas. There's something coming up in June in North Carolina as well. So lots of great events. HempBuild Mag is a great resource for your hemp building curiosity. Okay, right. So here's something else. So yesterday I was on a call. It was the Pennsylvania Hemp Engine stakeholders meeting. They're putting on public meetings once a month to discuss the industry. And Greg Wilson from Hempwood in Kentucky was giving a presentation about his products. And, I think there's a lot of interest in having a hempwood factory here in Pennsylvania. So anyway, Greg was telling us that we have to go vote for HempWood because there's this competition in Kentucky. It's the coolest thing made in Kentucky. You go to their website. So today is March 13th, and voting is open until March 17th. So go in there and vote for HempWood as the coolest thing made in Kentucky. Apparently, you can vote up to 5 times a day. So yeah, go vote for HempWood. All right, because let's face it, it is the coolest thing made in Kentucky. And speaking of the Pennsylvania Hemp Engine, you should attend these stakeholder meetings if you are interested, if you are in Pennsylvania, if you are in hemp, if you are just interested in how we are developing the industry here in Pennsylvania. So I will announce when that next meeting is. It's sometime in April because they have them monthly. Yeah. So, all right, what else can I tell you about today? There's probably something else right here. Let's just check the internet quick. Yeah, so a quick scan of the headlines here. Here's a story on hemptoday.net. It says that international groups are joining forces to expand standards for industrial hemp. The Federation of International Hemp Organizations, that's FIHO, and standards developer ASTM International have signed a memorandum of understanding to work together on global guidance for the hemp value chain. ASTM already has some standards for hemp extracts, hemp food, seed, and building materials, but that body of guidance needs significant development to cover the full range of potential hemp applications. So that's cool. That's good news. Here's one. This is from Oregon State University. It says that Oregon State University's Global Hemp Innovation Center has received a $10 million grant to work with 13 Native American tribes to spur economic development in the western United States by developing manufacturing capabilities for materials and products made from hemp. The project, funded by the U.S. Department of Agriculture's National Institute of Food and Agriculture, seeks to develop sustainable supply chains based on the needs identified by an intertribal business consortium that links regional hemp production, processing, and manufacturing to create hemp products. So that's awesome. You know, I feel remiss that I haven't really ever covered Oregon State's Global Hemp Innovation Center. So I'm going to put that on my list of things I need to be more curious about. All right, what else? Oh, we have some news coming out of Florida. Maybe you've heard this already, but they are banning Delta 8 and things like that. The lawmakers in Florida have banned it, and now they're sending it to the governor's desk. So crazy. I don't know. Listen to my episode with Bob Hoban from a few weeks ago as he talks about red state weed. It's strange things. All right, what else? So that's pretty much it for the news nuggets today. So, all right, thank you. Thank you for listening to me babble for a while. Now we're just going to get into my conversation with Gene Lotus. Gene Lotus, editor of HempBuild Magazine and publisher of the 2024 Hemp Building Directory, a guide to the international hemp building industry. Welcome to the Lancaster Farming Industrial Hemp Podcast. How are you doing?
Nice. I am doing great, and I am so excited to be joining you, Eric, because I'm a big fan of podcasts.
Well, likewise, I'm a big fan of your work, so thank you for being here with me today. So why don't we start by just give us a brief introduction?
Well, thank you. I'm here in Fort Collins, Colorado, which is my hometown. Um, Colorado, as you know, has always been a sort of uh, cannabinoid friendly place. We were the first state, among the first states to legalize recreational marijuana, but really the opportunity that I have seen here is the industrial uses of hemp. And I'm a journalist. I have written for, most recently, for United Press International, which is an international online wire service.
Okay.
And I was asked to write about industrial hemp. And because everything was online, I got a lot of feedback just as far as who was reading the stories when I wrote about the industrial hemp um, world and the reintroduction in the United States.
When did you start writing about hemp?
Gosh, I guess 2018, 2017, and 2018.
Okay.
So, of course, the Farm Bill was intriguing to a lot of people. And uh, the entire story of industrial hemp in the United States, as you know, is almost like a science fiction story. You can think of an alternate universe where the United States uh, took an approach similar to what they've taken in France and China and Romania and Ukraine, keeping the industrial uses of the plant, but
No, the
regulating
marijuana side of things. Yeah.
the marijuana side. Um, my personal goal, my personal hashtag is make hemp boring again.
Right. Yeah. I have a similar hashtag, I guess, but it's make hemp big, boring, and ubiquitous.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, so anyway, when I wrote about hemp, I noticed that I got just tons of page views. There was a lot of interest.
Hmm.
To me, my personal interest was the building materials because I thought, geez, this is a technology that's been in use successfully in Europe for 30 years. And all we have to do is basically turn a key. They've already made all the mistakes, they've done all the testing, they know what works. All we have to do is sort of turn a key and we could do it here. At the same time, the interest in biogenic renewable building materials, and with the Inflation Reduction Act and the Buy Clean America program, the interest in what's called embodied carbon in buildings, you've talked about this with Cameron and a bunch of other builders, is very high. And the idea of getting materials that can basically be renewed and then used in building materials are the amount of building going on. Obviously, we know that it contributes 38% to the greenhouse gases construction. So obviously, a lot of that is Portland cement, um, but a lot of it is also the waste and stuff from just regular building materials. And
Right.
anyone who's seen building job sites and the giant dumpsters
Yeah. Very
knows
wasteful.
that it's extremely wasteful.
Right. And a lot
So,
of like unhealthy just materials in
and
how
the
they're produced,
materials,
the
right?
plastics and the formaldehydes and all of these things that
Exactly.
create an
And that
unhealthy home.
exactly. So, I have been privileged, and I recommend to your listeners to get on board the Parsons. The Healthy Materials Lab has a $100 course that for healthy materials, that it's actually 4 courses. They offer it every semester. And it's a huge eye opener just about the health uh, effects of various building materials, PFASs, flame retardants, the plastics,
Yeah,
microplastics,
it goes on and on.
formaldehyde, all that stuff,
Yeah.
gypsum, the dust and such. It really does get, it affects the people who work with these materials to build your house, and it also affects the life uh, and mold, being able to seal up your house um, with a non-vapor permeable sealing process. When water does get in, you get mold, and in so much of this country we have problems with mold.
Yeah, and like the wallboard, the sheetrock that comes from overseas, that oftentimes has mold in it. And you mentioned the Parsons Healthy Materials Lab.
Correct.
They were involved in the Project PA Hemp Home out there in
That's
Western
correct.
Pennsylvania, and I'm really looking forward to sort of like seeing the data that they collect from because I think they're monitoring that house there.
They are, and they're checking air quality and checking, utility bills, and who they're checking the energy use and air quality there. And I think that the owner of that home, who was a woman to whom it was sold at a discount, she had asthma or some other health issue that had to do with the respiratory. Uh, don't don't quote me on that, but
Well,
but
you're
I'm
on the
I'm pretty
podcast,
sure
so you're quoting
that
yourself
the
here.
owner of that home had some kind of health issue that really living in a very clean environment was going to assist with.
Yeah, the company that sort of was spearheading that was Dawn Services, and I think what they do, one of their main sort of missions, is to help people with disabilities. So I know they were putting somebody in there who had disabilities in that space. But it's such a like an amazing concept of retrofitting a house and making it sort of sustainable and climate ready and healthy and efficient. And think of the implications
And it's
there.
a
We
modest house also.
Yeah.
So, um, I've been, searching for hemp houses online, and there are lots of them, and some of them are just like 9,000 square feet. I mean, luxury homes,
Right.
right?
Because at this point, if you can build a hemp house, you have the means to build a hemp house.
Exactly. So, but I do think that the idea of building with hempcrete is extremely democratic. I mean, that's one of the reasons that it appealed to me. Um, I am the mother of five between 30 and 18,
Wow.
and my kids are very concerned. I'm very concerned that they will never be able to own their own home. Um, it's just the world is rigged against young people right now, especially with college loans, et cetera.
Yep.
And
Yep.
so I really think that the idea of hempcrete, especially if the herd becomes sort of an industrial waste product, which is not what it is right now,
Right.
but not an industrial waste product, but an agricultural waste product. If
Hmm.
the price drops significantly, um, it really has the potential to compete with other building materials and
Sure.
systems. And
Yeah.
it's so easy to understand. It's similar to straw bale. I don't know if you ever met any straw bale fanatics in the
I
90s, but
have. Yeah. I used to live in Boulder, and
oh
I
yeah.
knew I knew. I guess Bob Campbell was his name, a
Uh-huh.
Scotsman with dreadlocks who would go down in the Southwest and do straw ball. I can't even say it now. Straw bale construction. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And Tim White, who is really one of the coolest hemp builders in the US, has also had experience as a straw bale, papercrete, all these different alternative natural building materials. He believes that hempcrete is the natural building system that can actually scale.
yeah, I agree with that. And it's neat. It's exciting too because you look at modern construction and these houses are really boring and stupid looking and so angular, and it's like they look like they've come off of a shipping container. And I think the
Yeah.
possibilities for like cool houses, like cool design, is it's
Or simple designs
simple
that
design. Yeah.
can be replicated in a really nice development with 400 houses that the price is low enough that they can be accessible. I mean, that is sort of the vision that I see. That when you say what does success look for like for this industry, that's what I see.
Right.
I also see a lot of folks getting into this business who are already in the trades and being intrigued by it. That's why we started the Hemp Build School through the magazine. I do the administrative work. I don't teach it,
Okay.
but
Well, let's talk about that. Tell me about this Hempcrete Build School.
it's called the Hemp Build School Masterminds, and it's got two tracks. One is for people want to do who want to build as a homeowner. We have a lot of people who are dreaming about building their own hemp house. They bought some land, they really want to do it, but they don't know where to start. And it's very hard to find a contractor who can build the right kind of frame for you, et cetera, to deal with all the different subcontractors. So the instructors in our school, it's a wonderful collaboration. And I think you've noticed, Eric, how collaborative people are in the hemp building industry.
I have.
It is amazing to the extent to which these folks volunteer on each other's builds, they help each other, they give each other, leads. Somebody calls someone, somebody calls Cameron in Pennsylvania,
But
and
they want
he,
to build a house in Michigan, so he
yeah,
talks
they
to
want to
somebody
build a
out
house in
there. Yeah.
Michigan. Yeah, so he is, so everybody really collaborates, and these instructors who are Cameron, the last class cohort, the instructors were Cameron, Tom Rossmessler, Tim White, Ray Catterley, and then Mark Benjamin, who is an engineer and designer here in Colorado, who's done
Cool.
4 or 5 hempcrete houses already. We actually have here in Larimer County, we have 5 hempcrete structures and another one that is being built this summer. So, it's actually happening. It's happening county by county,
Right.
you know?
Yeah. Last summer at the Montana Hemp Summit, I was
Hmm.
moderating a hemp building panel, and Cameron was on it, and he had some like sort of like news for the audience. This is industry hemp. They're producers, they're processors, and they're like, hey, look, you've already produced enough hemp hurd, to build all of the hemp houses we have here in the U.S. Like basically pointing out that like we've there's not that many out there, and like we're producing enough hemp to build those houses, but we just need to scale it. I'm not sure what the
Yes.
point of me telling you that is.
Well, it's true. And, it's between 20 and 40,000 pounds of herd per house, basically, for a normal size house. And they can do 20 to 40,000 pounds pretty easily, which is why I think the cost will really come down,
Sure. Yeah.
because there's a lot of herd out there, and there isn't that much market for it, but there will be
Right.
as houses start to be built.
Yeah. Let's get back to the school. So there was the two tracks. The one was for the homeowner.
Oh, sorry. Yeah,
Yeah.
the other one is for pros who want to get into the business.
Okay.
So we basically, talk about how do you um, how do you estimate a job? How do you explain, work with other pros like electricians? How do you schedule inspections? How do you work with plumbing? How do you talk to regulators and building department?
That's good news. Put that in the good news column. A school
Yes,
for hempcrete building.
absolutely. And now, that US Hemp Building Association has gotten hemp into the residential building codes starting now in 2024. It's a lot easier to just basically, again, make hemp boring again, show the IRC code to your local building department, and it's an appendix. It's part of the National Building Code now, and they can understand it.
Nice. Where can people go to learn about this school?
We host it on HempBuildMag.com,
Okay.
and you can look up HempBuildSchool.com, and there it is.
Okay. And are they weekly classes, or how does it work?
Well, there are 2 tracks, as I mentioned, and the classes are recorded online. But then twice a month, the instructors gather online in a live room to answer questions. They are not delivering the content. They already did that in the last cohort, and now they're answering questions, and then we're having special guests to give presentations. And then for the pro class, you also get included a job site visit, workshop visit, so that you can
Oh,
actually
okay.
get your hands
Some
dirty.
hands-on. Yeah. Okay.
And then you also get a membership to the US Hemp Building Association.
Nice. Which, if you're not a member, you should just sign up anyway, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
it's the best deal in town, $99 a year, and it really is a totally great association,
Right.
and
Because you use
working
that
for
money
you.
to help build the industry and do.
Correct,
Yeah.
correct. And obviously we used it to get hempcrete into the building codes, and we do some live events or online events. We have done live events with the Hemp Building Summit with Hempitecture, but right now we're not big enough to do online or live events
Right.
ourselves.
You'll get there. Right.
So we do online events.
Yeah. So it's membership. It's money well spent. You also get then access to sort of the network, right? sort of
That's
tap in.
correct. You
Yeah,
get access to the network. Plus, we have a huge, most of our, to be honest, most of our benefits and goodies are free to anyone on the website. But the reason why is because we have our fundamental uh, goal is educational. We have to be able to. We have like 40 or 50 academic papers up there that you can download. We have the IRC code is there, and coming up, we have some exciting news with we're releasing what's called a commercial guide spec, also known as a proprietary guide spec, so that any architect, when an architect works with a material, they get some proprietary language that they put into their bid documents. So if I wanted to make a strip mall out of hempcrete, I would just copy and paste from the hempcrete company the language for the building to spec it. Now that doesn't exist with hempcrete because hempcrete is a combination of a formula of things, and there aren't companies that are selling hempcrete per se. They're selling the different
sure.
ingredients,
Okay.
right? So we are about to release it's written by professional specifiers, but we're about to release this free commercial guide spec. So we're actually going to be, the Healthy Materials Lab folks are going to help us with getting the word out to commercial architects.
That's awesome.
Um, so we want to remove barriers for commercial architects to use this material in commercial settings, multi-unit, and strip malls,
Yeah.
hospitals, etc.
Yeah, right. Like, let's build everything out of hempcrete as much as we
Yeah.
can. That's awesome. So let's talk about the 2024 Hemp Building Directory, the guide to the
Yes.
international hemp building industry. So, just sort of basic questions. Why did you write it? Who's your intended audience?
So I wrote it as a response to requests for the book. So I started the online HempBuildMag.com. It now has about 150 articles on it in 2021. And as I wrote about people building with hemp and the different sort of supply chains, etc., um, I found that people were asking, is there anyone that has just a list of all the companies that are doing this? And I was asked that numerous times. And then because the website is free, I was like, well, maybe somebody would be interested in having this all in a dead tree medium as a book that they could flip through. So I put one out in 2022 and then another one in 2023. Now the first one was less than 90 pages. Now it's 150 pages. We have 700 different companies.
Wow.
Um, a lot of European companies, a lot of Australian companies, and a lot of American companies that have jumped in, and Canadian, North American companies. So that's super exciting to me, and it's a great way to sort of connect, and there are little informational articles in there, as well as you can find people who are supplying everything from hemp wood to wallpaper to some kind of experimental stuff, hemp blow-in insulation, hemp paints and stains. So the idea is, at any stage you can find supplies that have hemp as a building material in them. And of course, the hemp builders, the hemp architects, hemp designers, engineers, um, and of course, the hemp suppliers and decorticators.
Cool. It's all in there. And then you've got contact info and links and,
Yeah, well, it
so
doesn't have links because it's a paper book, but we do have,
where you can't click on them,
yeah,
but yeah, yeah, you can
you can find them.
find them.
They're
Yeah.
sorted regionally, so you can find people regionally.
Okay.
Here's what the book looks like.
Oh, awesome. Okay. Yeah, and
So
I have a copy on my way to me now, so I'm excited to
yes,
get my hands on that. Cool.
You will see that.
Yeah, and we'll put links to all the things on the show page for this episode so listeners can go there, click on it, find you, get the book, become a member, all of those things.
And I did want to mention, some motivation. Unfortunately, my role, I I was an investigative reporter in Chicago for many years, and I worked with the UPI, and what I found when writing about hemp and researching hemp online is that there is this bizarre world of fabulosity out there that the cannabis press does not understand, and it doesn't help that the word hempcrete has exists. We know that hempcrete, so people put things like, oh, hempcrete is stronger than concrete, and I'm going to build my swimming pool with hempcrete and stuff like that. And we know that hempcrete it's a sort of cheeky word that was developed by British people, and it really has nothing to do with the
Concrete.
what you would say the load bearing uh, qualities of real concrete. So it was really important to me that people have a place to find accurate information. And that's another reason that, to be honest, I don't report about cannabinoid hemp. I don't report about some of the other stuff because it's very hard there are some rogues in the business, let's put it that way. And when I worked for UPI, I did interview some rogues in the business, and did reported the things that they said. And one of them, whom I reported, was then charged by the SEC for $3 million
Oh,
for lying to shareholders. So I feel like there is a real market, there's a real need for very accurate reporting on building materials. Now, the other thing about building materials is, if you don't do it right, there's health and safety involved. A wall falls down on somebody's child, right? So this stuff needs to be very boring and very regulated and basically very consistent. And so it's fun to, do the hemp house, the straw bale and community building, a tiny house and blah, blah, blah. But really, the success in the building industry needs to be extremely streamlined and extremely boring. And a lot of people are upset by that in the hemp building world. They believe it should be a community building activity. And there's a lot of sort of community around the plant,
right.
right?
Cannabis loves community. Yeah.
Yeah, cannabis loves community, but in order for success in this business to take over, we need a giant home builders
Yeah, we need
to
to scale the
not
whole
think
thing.
twice
Yep.
about using it.
Right.
Now, super exciting. One of the guys who's in our class works for Mattamy Homes, and they build houses in Canada and Florida. And they are part of this home builders can group that Chris Magwood is in charge of, which is it's basically pushing decisions for low carbon and natural materials down to the home builder level. So down to the contractor level. And they're part of that. So we feel like, we're super excited that they're members of US Hemp Building Association. That's our first home building developer who has joined
Right.
the association. So we feel that's a slow, uh, it's progress is slow, but it's there.
Right. It's a slow
And of
burn, but it's
course,
coming. Yeah.
yeah, and of course you have seen the stuff happening at the Hillside Center
I
for
have. Yeah. I was going to
Sustainable
mention that.
Living in Newburyport, Massachusetts, and they are doing tip-up hempcrete panels with steel frames inside that, just exactly like they built an Amazon warehouse 20 miles down I-25 in Loveland here in Colorado, and they use these tip-up cement panels. Well, imagine using hempcrete. They actually, at Hillside, David Hall, the owner, had said, we used concrete and foam before for our previous units,
Yeah.
and we found that they were really heavy and really toxic materials. And now they're doing it with hempcrete. It weighs 40% as much, and um, it still works
Yeah.
and it still has the same insulation properties, and it's, so much more natural. So if they can do it that in the United States, then anybody can do it anywhere.
Yep. Well, let's talk a bit about sort of comparing the international hemp building space with the domestic space.
Well, um, as I mentioned, they've been able to do it in Europe, in France. You've seen the pictures of the Charpentier de France group and some of Le Mole and some of these big groups that have done, social housing that is, 11 stories high, um, and then other public buildings. Now that's based on French regulations of basically the carbon footprint of your building. If you get any national funding, has to be low. So people turn to hemp, and they have successfully turned to hemp. There is a hemp building school in France that basically, is a trade school that just teaches people how to do the hemp building. The blocks that are being uh, imported into the United States are made in Vicat by Vicat, which is I believe it's in Marseille. And it's basically a cement company. I mean, they also make blocks with styrofoam in them and recycle plastic and blah, blah, blah. And really, to be honest, the hemp industry should not be in the building industry. It should be the minerals industry. If you're doing lime and hemp, the builders are used to buying from the lime people, not the hemp people. It's like, and I always say there is a like, if I want raisin cookies, right? Oatmeal raisin cookies. I don't go to a raisin farmer and say, sell me a raisin cookie. It's like the farmer doesn't need to, he doesn't want to be involved
Right.
in
Right.
making cookies.
Hemp should just be an ingredient for
It's an
the cookies.
ingredient in
Yeah.
cookies. So I go to a bakery. I go to somebody who already knows the the magic of adding heat and ingredients together and making a product, right? And for building, that's what we need to have is the the lime companies, the mineral companies need to be, and Graymont was doing that for a while. There's another company called Micropause from Mexico that's doing it. Also, U.S. Heritage in Chicago. I mean, they basically have been working with hemp, imported hemp from Europe since 2008, building houses here in the U.S. In a way, we have to really, the hemp it's an ingredient, but it's just another biogenic fill material, right? Make hemp boring again. It's exciting that it sequesters so much carbon, and it grows so quickly, and it can just replace wood chips, etc. But it is really just, another plant
It's just
material.
another material. Yeah, it's like you go to like the hemp expos, and it's like, yay, it's hemp, but really, like the hemp companies need to be going out into the other industries, which they're
That's
doing.
correct. That's
Yeah,
correct.
yeah,
Yeah. And speaking of hemp expos, NOCO Hemp Expo's coming up,
coming
and
up.
we're having two panels of builders, and we're also featuring Mark Marino and Danny Desjardins from the
From
Lower
the Lower
Sioux,
Sioux.
and of
Yeah,
course you've interviewed them, and
yeah,
and
that's such
Mark
a
is
great
doing
story.
his
Yeah,
yeah, and Mark is doing his panel, his panel systems, which are very cool. And one of the houses at Lower Sioux was done with that panel system. Now he's doing one in New Orleans. Also, I don't know if you know that Patagonia is making a movie about the Lower
I
Sioux hemp.
have heard that. That's exciting. Yeah.
So that's really exciting to me. And we're always talking about what does this industry look like in the next years. And I feel like there's BP and AP, before Patagonia and after Patagonia.
I I have a lot of questions about the Patagonia stuff. And maybe one is, how do I get in touch with them? I want to talk to them, or I don't know. Do they know what I'm doing here? I don't know. Sec-
Yeah.
Second question
Well,
is, they're
yeah.
not going to ship the hemp to China, build the houses there, and then ship them back, are they?
No, no. In fact, Patagonia
That was
makes
such a
clothing.
cynical question. I'm sorry.
But that is how they did in Colorado. They grew some hemp here and they shipped it to China, made blah, 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 and sent it back. And these hemp bags that are made from native tribal farms, the new hemp work bag that just came out, which is so cool. That was made in China, but really it's just because as you know,
The infrastructure's not here yet.
the
Yeah.
infrastructure, yeah, our textile industry has not been successfully reshored here. And even if it had, there are 9 or 10 steps in taking a fiber and turning it into a garment or a piece of cloth. So those steps, spinning, knitting, blah, 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 it goes on and on, dyeing, all that stuff, our garment industry is so bizarre that it ships the same product back and forth across the ocean
Yeah.
several times before it
Right.
ends up in a
Well, our
clothing
food is
store.
like that too. It's like you can buy something, like I don't know, pick a piece of produce and you'll look at the package. It's like grown in Guatemala, packaged in China, sold in the US. It's like,
Oh,
wow,
God.
very well-traveled produce.
Yeah.
I like to buy
Yeah.
my produce at Knee Farm in
and
Chester County,
and and
Pennsylvania.
really that's part of the excitement with hempcrete is that these products are cheap and they're locally available, and when we've interviewed Sergei Kovalenko about why he is able to keep going in Ukraine, part of it is he has a totally hyper local supply chain. He gets the lime, the binder, and the hemp very locally. Nothing has to go in and out of the country. So he is able to survive and thrive in Ukraine during wartime.
It's amazing. I interviewed him, I guess, like maybe a week or two after the war started
Oh,
in
I know.
2022. So yeah, he's such an inspiring person in the space, and just the whole story is just so heartbreaking.
Yes, it's terrible. Um, but it's given him a a purpose in life, and we need heroes, in this industry for sure.
Um, can you talk about some of the more interesting hemp building projects that you've come across, either in the U.S. or in the world?
Well, of course, there were some early on, like 2012. Um, there was a Marks and Spencer department store, which is the British version of Target, basically, right? Um, that was built with hemp panels. There have been several warehouses and breweries built in the UK. Part of, when you talk to the British hemp builders, they're a little frustrated. The French hemp builders are obviously doing some big projects, but the British ones say, well, this is a little bit of a backwater. It's a small industry for, people who want a sort of bespoke home kind of thing, and some of the builders like Will Stanwicks and Graham Durant. I mean, Graham has told me I'm an environmentalist who happens to be a builder, right? And on the other hand, and also I think there's a lot more rehabilitation of the building environment in Europe. They have a huge built environment, a lot of stone buildings that were built 200 years ago, wattle and daub buildings that were built 400 years ago. those buildings are cold and they need insulation, and hemp is a really great natural material to do that. So they have a huge rehab market there. I really think there's a huge rehab market here in the American West about for wildfire renovations.
Yep.
Here in Colorado, we don't actually have a state building code. It's a lot. Every basically it's home rule, and it's every local county building department is their own mini feudal kingdom. But that does mean that we do have a lot of homes in the mountains that are in the wildfire zones, but have been built with not very good, not very flame resistant materials. And so, like, I just was speaking to some people up in the foothills west of Denver, and their fire insurance was taken away. It was canceled by State Farm. And their neighbors also, like almost everyone in the neighborhood, had their fire insurance canceled. So the state of Colorado is actually starting a insurance of last resort. If people aren't getting their insurance canceled, um, the prices increased
Way
by
up. Yeah.
5 or 6 times, right? One family has a little wooden A-frame that's surrounded by trees. I mean, it's clearly a target. They had to go to Lloyd's of London to get their fire insurance, and it's very expensive. So the state is really trying to get people to mitigate. There are a lot of steps for mitigation: clearing the brush from near your house, clearing the trees that are maybe touching your house. But one of them is hardening the sides of your house. And hempcrete is really great for that. It's it's fire resistant. So I see a future of a sort of hemp panel system or a spray system similar to a stucco that can basically harden your house. Now you're still going to have to do something about the roof and blah blah blah, but the insurance companies in California have talked about they not only are helping people with their insurance, but they're also giving people a tax subsidy if they do these hardening
Okay.
processes.
Right. Cool. I have an idea for a TV show that would be on
Yes.
like HGTV,
Mm-hmm.
and it would basically take that concept of the Pennsylvania hemp home, where they did the retrofit. They tore it down to studs and they redid it in hempcrete. That's the whole premise of the show. It would be called Hemp Your Home. Get
Mm-hmm.
your existing home climate ready, and what I don't know, come up with some great tagline about
Never
that.
paint
But
again. Yeah.
right, all right. And so like the whole show, like the first season might just focus on one house, or maybe we get a couple of different people. But yeah, you have a house, you have a family, you take all of their stuff out, you tear their house down to bare studs, and you redo it with hempcrete. And then, at the end of the show, you move the bus and you see this house. And I guess like part of that is like I'm mostly serious about that, but it's like, how do we reach the people? Like, how do we get the average consumer to think, oh yeah, I want a beautiful house that's energy efficient and healthy. How do we get the people to know that that's even an option? So that's what I thought this
Snoop
HGTV
Dogg
show.
is
Right.
the answer.
Is he? Snoop and Martha? We get
Well, that's the thing, Martha Stewart, right? Exactly. So the idea is, I do think that there will be a celebrity who announces that they're building with hemp. I mean, Beyonce announced that she had a hemp farm, right?
right, right.
Um,
Paul McCartney apparently grows CBD hemp on his farm in the
oh, of
UK.
course,
And if anyone out there is listening, I'd like to interview Paul. Just putting it
yes.
out into the universe.
But yeah, so I do think that, I mean, it's very, very intriguing. We actually had a U.S. Hemp Building Association, as we're working on this new specifying document. We had a meeting with the top specifiers at Skidmore, Owings and Merrill. Now they build the skyscrapers, right? Um, they were very intrigued by it. So really, the architects and designers are the place that it needs to start, the decision makers. Because if I decide that I'm going to be a hemp builder and I learn how to do it, I make blocks or I buy blocks and I sit there and wait for the phone to ring. Unless somebody is designing houses with this, um, you're going to keep waiting for the phone to ring.
Right, right. That makes me think of Anna Konopetskaya
Mm-hmm.
from Coexist Build.
Coexist.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Because she is an architect. She is designing
That's
stuff like
correct.
this. Yeah.
Right. And of course, you have to get that past your clients. If you're
Right.
you have to tell them. And we had a house here in Larimer County that was going to be out of hempcrete, and a local natural builder was going to build it, and blah blah blah. And the client just lost their nerve and said, "I want to build it with stone instead." And the builder has to go with what the client wants.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But designers, especially in multi-unit buildings, in commercial structures, they make the decisions, and those are the decision makers is whom we have to reach.
Right. Yep. Cool. So, what else should we talk about? I know we're sort of coming up, sort of the end of the hour.
Yeah. Well, I just feel like if some people in this industry are very frustrated, feel like, they're going broke, etc. But if you take a look every year backwards at the end of the year and say, would you ever have thought something like the Hillside Center for Sustainable Development was going to be happening in the United States? Would you ever have thought that Skidmore, Owens and Merrill was going to be talking about specking hempcrete? Would you ever have thought, it is slow, but it's definitely, we have the wind at our back because, and a lot of these, then the, for example, the Inflation Reduction Act, you know, billions and billions of dollars to basically do green, greening the environment. Now, some of it I think is garbage, like trying to build gigantic machines that suck carbon out of the air. Give me a break.
Especially when we already have, I don't know, plants with
Yeah,
photosynthesis, and that if we can
exactly,
scale
exactly.
it, we can do that. Yeah.
Yeah, and that is silly. But the things like the Buy Clean American Act, and that we started a Buy Clean Colorado, there's Buy Clean California. California basically announced that if you're going to build any big project there, you have to prove that you have lower embodied carbon, like 40% lower. So when you're doing the math, hempcrete is the best. It is absolutely the best insulation that you can use to get that number down. Also, getting some greener cement in there. But I just feel like there's something called the GSA, which is the government landlord, the federal government landlord, has a green proving ground. So they basically say if you have a company that is um, going that is using green building materials, pitch it to us. We'll use it on a retrofit of a federal building and we'll buy it, and that will pull you forward. And
Yeah.
that's what happened with Cameron to
Yeah.
get this SBIR grant. The US Army realizes that they need to get their carbon footprint down. So they're throwing out the they're throwing out the RFPs saying, show us a way, show us a way. And, for those who say, oh, the federal government should not get involved with business. I mean, who do you think is paying for SpaceX? Everyone loves, some of the rugged individualistic entrepreneurs of the world. The federal government has always stepped in and helped businesses and industries. And
Right.
the federal government certainly is helping the fossil fuel industry. So there's no reason that it can't help the other contrary
Right.
industries, in my
Yeah, for
opinion.
sure. Yep, absolutely. Yeah, the government has to be involved. I think private industry, government, and then consumer demand. Those are the
Yes.
three things that
Oh,
are going to
that's the
take
other thing.
us.
I do want to talk about consumer demand.
Yeah.
So I get an interesting, because of my website, I get an interesting sort of view into the zeitgeist. And I find that through Google search results. So for the first 2 years I put out my magazine, I got 21,000 search hits for hemp blocks, hemp bricks, hemp blocks for sale, hemp blocks near me, blah, blah, blah. Now it's hemp houses, hempcrete houses, hemp. And we started a fun page on Facebook, which is a discussion group called Hemp Houses. Okay. We get 300 people a week joining that thing. I
Wow.
mean, there is an interest, and those people are not all going to buy or build a hemp house. Who can afford to build their own home, from scratch, right? However, it has captured the imagination, and we now have 20,000 members in just, I think less than a year and a half that have joined that Facebook group.
Hmm.
So to me, that indicates, and now I'm getting just thousands of requests for hemp houses, hempcrete house near me, build a hempcrete house.
Right.
So I really feel like that has
It's coming.
gone into the imagination of folks who are interested. And there's a lot of anxiety in this country about housing,
Yeah.
as you know.
Yeah.
There's a lot of anxiety in this country about, in all over the world, about housing, Canada, Europe. Um, so the fact that people are interested in this, the data shows that they are.
Right. And you don't need a whole hemp house to bring hemp into your house. You could like retrofit an interior wall, like just to get some of those, benefits into your house. So,
And also, rugs, and there's a ton of different, IKEA does a lot in Europe. IKEA does tons of hemp materials that
oh, no kidding.
it's really an opportunity for industrial uses. We just need the infrastructure here.
Yep. Yeah. Cool. Well, Jean Lotus, it is an honor to talk to you today. Thank you so
It's
much for your
great.
time.
It's great talking to you, Eric. And I am just so thrilled. For anyone that's just getting frustrated in the hemp industry, you just have to look year over year at the advances that are happening and see that it is growing, and exciting, really exciting things are happening in all the different eventual uses of the plant.
Yeah. So good news all around. Jean Lotus,
Exactly.
thank you so much.
All right. Thank you. Take it easy, Eric.
All right. And there you go. Jean Lotus, HempBuild Magazine, HempBuild School Masterminds, the 2024 HempBuild Directory. So, yeah, thanks to Jean for all the work that she does. So, hey, I wanted to let you know about something else. So, I've been interviewing a lot of people lately. Like, somehow it feels like more than normal. So, I have more interviews than I know what to do with. So, I'm going to be publishing special bonus episodes. They're not going to drop on Wednesdays like they normally do. They're just going to show up. So I'm giving you fair warning. Last week, I had a bonus episode that I put right on the YouTube channel, at Lancaster Farming's YouTube channel. I had a cool conversation with another business person from Poland. So I remember last week I had interviewed Maciej Kowalski. Later that same day, I interviewed Michael Klepacz. He is an expat American living in Warsaw. He has a business called Natural Fibers Unlimited. And so, yeah, we had a really fun conversation. That's on the YouTube page. So check that out. So I've got some cool stuff coming your way in the next few weeks. And I'm going to NOCO, and so much is happening. The ebb and flow of life. I feel like things are flowing right now, and I am grateful for that. So anyway, my name is Eric Herlock. I am the senior digital editor at Lancaster Farming Newspaper, the greatest agricultural newspaper in the world. Check us out online at lancasterfarming.com. Get yourself a copy of our print edition, become a subscriber, sign up for newsletters, put some classified ads in. Check out what we have for sale in the mailbox markets. There's so much for you in Lancaster farming. So anyway, until next time, I will see you in the newspaper.
Industrial hemp. Industrial hemp. Industrial hemp.
This episode of the Lancaster Farming Industrial Hemp Podcast is copyright 2024 by Lancaster Farming Newspaper, part of the Steinman Communications family. Today's show was written, recorded, edited, and produced by Eric Herlock. The music you hear throughout the show is courtesy of Tin Bird Shadow.